President responds to criticism made on the appointment of a judge.
Sri Lanka නීතිඥ සංගමේ සභාපතිතුමා සහ නියෝජිත පිරිසක් මාව ඇවිල්ලා හමු වෙලා මගෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කළා මේක කොහොම හරි ඉටු කරලා දෙන්න.
Minister Harim Fernandez says a drama corporation handles the Google loan project in the country. TRC imposes restriction on spectrum allocations. Joint opposition withdrawals from all subcommittees vested with drafting the new constitution. Minister Faiz Mustafa says the gazette on the committee report on delimitation will be published tomorrow. Edappadi Palaniswamy takes oaths as the new Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu.
Good evening and welcome. You're with News First, your number one news provider. I am Shami Rasuldi.
I'm Sonali Wanigabalage. Here's a look at the news in detail. The National Law Conference 2017 saw its inauguration in Colombo yesterday. President Maithripala Sirisena, addressing the dignitaries gathered, spoke on the importance of ensuring transparency in the judicial services and also responded to criticism levelled against him with regard to the recent appointment of a High Court judge.
Sri Lanka නීතිඥ සංගමය
When the Bar Association of Sri Lanka proposed a name to me, I immediately instructed the Presidential Secretary to inform the BASL that it cannot be done. Thereby, the Presidential Secretary informed the BASL in writing that their request cannot be met. Thereafter, the President and a group of representatives of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka met me and made a request, saying that this is a request made by the BASL and that it cannot be put aside, and urged me to kindly fulfill this request. It was after this that I proposed the name of this judge, including the names of the 5 other judges which were appointed to the high institutions in the judicial sector. So I made these appointments after receiving the approval based on the evaluation these institutions conducted. So I must very clearly say that I did not do this for my personal gain. I must also note that there is a sense of fairness in the scrutiny which is being levelled against this matter. Whatever function within the judicial sector should be carried out in an extremely pure and honest manner. I am a person who will be of this stance today, tomorrow and the day after. The President was speaking at the opening ceremony of the National Law Conference 2017 yesterday, organised by the Bar Association of Sri Lanka.
As lawyers, it is our belief that the law has to be people-friendly, as Justice Veeramandri would say. It has to be relevant to the times, and it has to effectively and meaningfully serve society. We need to constantly look at the law at a national level to see where we are. Where are we going? What have we done? And what more needs to be done? We of the Bar are committed to support the government in matters of good governance, to ensure that true rule of law and democracy prevails, which after all is and should be our common goal. Good governance and true rule of law is necessary if the law is to be effective.
We all know that pursuing justice is a noble calling, but not always a glamorous one. Many of us enter the legal profession to make a difference in society, to improve our communities, to protect the disadvantaged, or to uphold the values that we all cherish. It should therefore be a concern to all of us that fewer lawyers in this country are civic conscious.
We have appointed 2 separate committees with 2 Supreme Court justices as its chairpersons to recommend the required amendments to the Civil Procedure Code, Criminal Procedure Code as well as the Penal Code. As a government, we admit and understand that there is a need for a change in the judicial system. There is an unbelievable amount of cases which have backlogged at the Supreme Court. This is causing a disadvantage to the people of the country. As a government, we also have an idea to establish a system which decentralizes the powers of the judiciary on fundamental rights to a certain extent, and at the same time establish a civil appeals court in place of the high courts.
Politicians have become men of flux. You cannot pin them down. They have nothing settled or steady either in their own minds or in any of their discourses. But the Bar must surely recognize there is something inherent in the nature of politics and politicians in our country that is not conducive to achieving stability. We need responsible, honest, competent governance and a competent and independent legal provision which will restore public confidence in all institutions of governments, institutions which provide access to justice and delivery of justice, to name but a few.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is on an official visit to Australia, will conclude his tour today.
The Sri Lankan delegation led by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was hosted to a lunch with entrepreneurs from the Australian state of Victoria who are interested in investing in Sri Lanka. Prior to the luncheon, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe met with the Victorian State Minister for Small Business, Innovation and Trade, Philip Dalidakis. Minister Philip Dalidakis had said the steps taken by the Sri Lankan President and Prime Minister to unite the country has created an environment that would enable the country to overcome all economic challenges. He had also added that the Prime Minister's visit prompted the state of Victoria to come forward in utilising the Colombo harbour at a time it has become a hub for trade in the region.
We have to understand that is necessary for Australia and Sri Lanka and everyone else in this region of Indian Ocean and Pacific to work together for close economic cooperation. We are the fastest growing regions in the world, and while we deal with the outside world, we have to ensure more trade, more investments and more cooperation between all of us. The markets of India, China, Southeast Asia and South Asia will be over 3 billion. And in another 10 years' time, as the incomes increase, just think of what the value will be. At least 600 million. That's going to be more than the population of Europe.
Prime Minister Wickremesinghe has pointed out that all measures have been taken to uplift the Sri Lankan economy and the government's objective is to make the Pearl of the Indian Ocean the trade hub of South Asia. The Prime Minister had requested the High Commissioners of both countries to commence discussions in obtaining the support of the state of Victoria for this purpose. Prime Minister Wickremesinghe also called on the Premier of Victoria, Daniel Michael Andrews, today. During the meeting, it was agreed to explore the avenues that will enable to strengthen ties between Sri Lanka and the state of Victoria. At the meeting in Melbourne, it was noted that Sri Lanka's long relationship with Australia has become the root for relations between Sri Lanka and the Australian states.
From bonds to ports to balloons, Minister of Telecommunications and Digital Infrastructure Harin Fernando convened a media briefing today regarding the Google Loon project.
The Google Loon project, which aimed to provide high-speed internet facilities to the country, was at the centre of controversy in the recent days. Several civil society organisations accused that the Google Loon project was a front to acquire the electronic spectrum of our country by a company named Rama Corporation.
මම විදුලි සංදේශය ඇමති වුණාට මට විදුලි සංදේශ නියාමන කොමිසම අයිති නේ. සංඛ්‍යාත මට අදාළ නැහැ. මට ස්පෙක්ට්‍රම් අදාළ නැහැ.
Even though I am the Minister of Telecommunication, I am not in charge of the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission. I am not in charge of the spectrum. We need the approval of the TRC to carry out the pilot project. We asked for that permission. Then there was a question as to what this Rama Corporation is. Google used Rama to carry out the project in the country. There is no commercial agreement with Rama Corporation. We have not signed any commercial agreement at any time. The government has not agreed to provide the approval since this is a pilot project. If this is successful, then we have to go into an agreement. There is no corrupt deal here. We have reported facts to the government. We have received cabinet approval. Chamat Palihapitiya is also the Sri Lankan ambassador to the Silicon Valley. We have not used a cent of Sri Lankan taxpayers' money for this project. We have not sold our spectrum to anyone.
ටැක්ස් ගෙවන මිනිසුන්ගේ මුදල් මේකට පාවිච්චි කරේ නැහැ. අපේ සංඛ්‍යාත එහෙම නැත්නම් අපේ ස්පෙක්ට්‍රම් එක අපි කාටවත් විකුණලත් නැහැ. So unfortunately, if we delay further more Google project, we may miss the opportunity of the Google project. It might go to another country.
Yeah, the problem is that the government is not releasing the spectrum.
The cabinet decided to release it, but there is an ITU issue. So that's why we have spoken to the AG. The cabinet has referred it to the AG to give a direction of how we should move forward with it. The 700 megahertz spectrum to be used, there is a particular issue of the ITU not giving the approval for it. So it's not an issue with the TRC of Sri Lanka also. TRC is a member state of the ITU. So TRC has since we are a member state of the ITU, we are binded by the regulations of the ITU. So we need to refer to the ITU with the regulations of how we should release the 700 megahertz spectrum.
And you are saying that there is a risk Google Loon is leaving country. What's the connection between that? Because even if they go out of the country or to any other country, they have to abide by the ITU.
If that country is not an ITU or registered country, it won't be a problem. Certain sectors of ITU is not run by the government of Sri Lanka or any particular organization. So ITU has their own regulations that they prevent certain new innovations taking place. So it's a problem that ITU and Google need to sort out, but we are in the midst of the middle of it.
So how fair are you to blame the Sri Lankans?
How am I blaming the Sri Lankans?
You said that there is a risk of Google leaving because of the criticism. But they are leaving. If they are leaving, it's not because of the criticism.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. It's not only the criticism, also could also be a part of it.
මේ ව්‍යාපෘතිය ලංකාවේ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ රාමා කියලා ආයතනයක් කියලා. අපිට කියන්න කවුද ඉන්න shareholders?
That is what I said. Chamath Palihapitiya is a main person in this Rama Corporation.
Palihapitiya කියන මහත්මයා.
එතකොට කොච්චරක් අයිතිද මේ සමාන?
So you have the shareholding.
100% is the ultimate benefit.
එතුමා තමයි ප්‍රධාන නියෝජිතයා. මේ ආයතනය තුල
He is the main agent. Google does not have an office in Sri Lanka. That is why they have appointed an agent.
Minister, has this Rama Corporation been incorporated in the country at present?
No, but what Rama is on the process of...
I have the document to say that the company is incorporated.
I see. Sorry.
Who are the shareholders?
So as I said, Chamath Palihapitiya is one. I think Malaka Talvatte is one of them.
Two names here, Mr. Kanage, from the Department of Registrar of Companies. I'm not going to mention the two names because those two parties are not here. So you are saying that these two people who are having the shares of Rama Corporation here in the country are appointed by Mr. Palihapitiya.
That's right.
Anti-corruption activists also voiced their views on the Google Loon project in Sri Lanka.
There is a company called Rama. This project was merely a front for this company to purchase the spectrum of our country. What happens next? They will first give one frequency for the test. Next, they will call for tenders for the rest. And then Rama will purchase a majority of it. TV channels, radio channels and some telcos will purchase the rest. Then anyone else who wants to purchase frequencies thereafter had to purchase it from Rama. This could lead to this company even having a say in our telecommunication rates and charges. This is a scam. This is a scam which has stalled and is slowly unraveling. We need technology. Why can't the TRC enter into an agreement directly with Google and implement such a project? However, if the rights to the spectrum of our country goes into the hands of a certain company, imagine what could happen. They have misled the minister, the prime minister and the government. This is merely an attempt at using state assets such as the spectrum to benefit a close group of friends. It is clear that this is a racket. What the minister revealed today is exactly what we have been saying. We have serious doubts and concerns about the people behind these companies and their actions. We are not against new technology being introduced to the country. However, if they are gearing up for a scam, then as citizens we will stand up against it.
From balloons to politics now. Welcome back. This is News First. The joint opposition announced today that its members of parliament will be stepping down from the subcommittees appointed for the purpose of drafting a new constitution.
A constitutional assembly consisting of 225 members of parliament was established to draft a new constitution. A constitutional steering committee of 21 members headed by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and 6 subcommittees were appointed to create a draft amendment. The 6 subcommittees include committees on fundamental rights, the judiciary, law and order, public finance, public service and centre periphery relations. While each subcommittee consists of 11 members, the reports of these subcommittees were presented in Parliament recently. As the subcommittee branch, we came to an agreement that all powers relating to finances will be vested with Parliament. 18% of the government's annual total income and debt should be allocated for the provincial councils. 7% should be allocated for local government authorities. These should be monitored by the Finance Commission. All activities should be subject to Parliament's approval. We also recommended that a separate paragraph be included into this constitutional amendment which would create the powers to carry out the audits of state corporations, state companies, cooperatives and local government bodies which come under the central government. Then there was another subcommittee on centre-periphery relations. It was MP Siddharthan who functioned as its chairman. So if a completely different set of recommendations from the ones which we made are being presented by another subcommittee and they are playing hidden games, we tell the general public with responsibility that as the chairman I will no longer contribute to the process of formulating the constitution. MP Keheliya Ramukwella and Tharaka Balasuriya are with me. A much large number of MPs have served in these subcommittees. They are also still serving in these committees. Joint opposition members of the Constitutional Council subcommittees have stepped down. However, they will not step down from the Constitutional Steering Committee. So the bus of the subcommittee has already left. The subcommittee reports came into Parliament after they got together and presented reasonable arguments where their views were also obtained. So such statements which are usually made for political gain are sometimes made because of their ignorance regarding the objectives we have as a political party.
Minister Faiza Mustafa today gave an answer to a question he was continuously being asked over the recent past. This was during a media briefing convened by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
The answer to the question you ask every day is that we have decided to gazette the local government elections tomorrow. So this will be completed by tomorrow. You constantly questioned about this matter and now it has come to an end. I met with the chairman of the Elections Commission and other commissioners to show our goodwill. The Elections Commission chairman extended his full support. He gave me a team for this purpose. I could not have done this without him.
ඔබතුමා සඳහන් කළා මේ හෙට ගැසට් කරනවා කියලා පළාත් පාලන ඡන්දේ නමුත් අදාළ ගැසට් පත්‍ර දැන් ඩිලිමිටේෂන් ඉවරද මොකක්ද මේ
All of it is done. We are working towards gazetting it tomorrow. That task is vested in my ministry secretary.
First, they imposed a maximum retail price on rice. Now there seems to be a shortage of rice in the marketplace, putting a further strain on the stomachs of the people of Sri Lanka. The price of rice in the domestic market is still being widely discussed today. Let's take a look.
The government recently permitted the importation of rice in order to address the shortage of rice in the country, which had been influenced by several factors including the severe drought in the country. In order to address the increase in the price of rice, the government on the 8th of this month decided to enforce a maximum retail price for rice. The MRP for locally produced samba rice was fixed at 80 rupees a kilogram and 72 rupees for a kilogram of Nadu rice. The MRP for a kilogram of Kekulu rice was set at 70 rupees. However, certain traders continue to sell rice above the government-enforced MRP. A factor that makes the situation even worse is that consumers are unable to distinguish the difference between locally produced rice and imported rice. In certain areas, the price of rice is above the MRP imposed by the government. In order to address the shortage of rice, rice producers in the Polonnaruwa district today decided to sell rice under the government-imposed control price.
කුඩා මෝල් හිමියන් තමයි මේ සහතික මිලට වී දෙන්න ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා ඉන්නේ. ඇයි මේ මහ පරිමාණ මෝල් හිමියන් සැඟවිලා ඉන්නේ? ඒක ඉතින් ඒ මෝල්
You should pose that question to them. Stocks may have been stored at various places. That could be the reason for the shortage of rice in the market.
ඒකේ ප්‍රතිඵලයක් වෙන්න ඇති මේ විදියට හේතුව.
It is the view of the Marandagahamula wholesale traders that though there is no shortage of rice, there are complications in selling rice under the MRP.
සාමාන්‍ය පොඩි හිගයක් තියෙනවා මොකද අර වැඩි මිලට ගත්ත වී ගත්ත කට්ටිය ඉන්නවා ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලන්ට තමයි අඩු මිලට විකුණීමේ අපහසුතාවයක් තියෙනවා මේ වෙලාවේ.
දෙයින් කියන්නේ තොග මිලයි සිල්ලර මිලයි කියලා මිල දෙකක් මෙයා වුණා නම් තමයි හොඳ ඉතින්. පාලන මිල 80යි කිව්වම ඉතින් තොග වලින්දත් ඒ මිලටම දෙන්න හදනවා ඒතකොට.
On the 14th, President Maithripala Sirisena emphasized that an appropriate mechanism should be implemented promptly to provide rice to the public at subsidized rates. At the meeting, the government's stance was to have two control prices for local and imported rice. They have requested to sell a kilogram of white kakulu for 78 rupees, Nadu for 80 rupees and Samba for 95 rupees. So, if a kilogram of Nadu can be sold for 80 rupees, why is it being sold above 100 rupees? Imagine the profits generated. It is clear that there is a mafia in operation. What they do is change the packets and then mix it with the local rice and then sell the rice for exorbitant prices.
කවලම් කරලා 50 ගණන් වලට 60 ගණන් වලට ගෙනපු හාල් අන්තිමට විකුණනවා ගිනි ගණන් වලට.
මහා හාල් මෝල් හිමියන් ජනාධිපතිතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලලා තිනවා පිටරටින් ගෙන්නන සහල් එක මිලක් ලංකාවේ සහල් මිල තවත් මිලකට මිලවල් දෙකකට. මොනවද ඔබතුමා ඒ ගැන මොකද කියන්නේ? ඒකේ තියෙන වාර්තාව මම
It has been revealed that two prices have been imposed for local and imported rice. The President's office will announce an official statement on that.
නිර ප්‍රකාශය. පාරිභෝගික අසාධාරණයක් කරනවා නේද ඔබතුමා?
අනිවාර්යෙන් වෙනවා. ඔබේ කාර්යභාරය අන්නේ හොරු ටික අල්ලන්න.
Yes, your task is to nab those rogues. Minister Rishad Badiuddin said the raids will take place.
මට ඒ නම් මෙතන කියන්න.
ඔබතුමා කියන අපිට ඒක වටලන්න කියලාද අපිට කියන
නෑ නෑ කරන්න කැමති නම් බොහොම සතුටුයි.
You can do it if you want to. You are the ones who say that such things happened. So show us those places.
අපිට පෙන්වන්න කොයිද ඒක තියෙන්නේ?
If a MRP has been imposed, the Consumer Affairs Authority is bound to enforce that. We don't need to seek the advice of mill owners for this. During every discussion, only the big mill owners make representations and draw the wrong picture before the President. Consumers are unable to differentiate the local rice from the imported rice. We suspect that this is an illegal racket.
Let's now take a brief look at some judicial proceedings of the day.
The Colombo High Court today granted bail to former crimes OIC of the Narahentvita Police, Sumit Pereira, who had been in custody over the murder of former rugby player Wasim Tajuddin. The decision to release the suspect on bail was announced after his bail application was taken up in court today. However, he was ordered to be returned to remand custody until the 2nd of next month by the Additional Magistrate of Colombo, as he had not received the verdict of the High Court on granting bail to the suspect. In addition, former senior DIG Anurasena Nayaka was also remanded once again in connection to the murder of Wasim Tajuddin. Until now, the progress was satisfactory, but we have no faith in what will happen in the future. We do not know how to respond to this.
5 students who were arrested following the altercation between students from 3 popular schools in Colombo were released on bail today.
An altercation between students from 3 popular schools in Colombo took place last afternoon. 8 students were injured, 2 buses, 2 vans and a car were damaged as a result of this clash. 15 students involved in the clash were arrested by the Burala and Maradana police stations. The 5 students who were arrested by the Burala police were produced before the Colombo Magistrates Court today. The magistrate ordered police to file charges against the students. Another 10 students who were arrested over the clash were produced before the Maligakanda Magistrates Court yesterday and were released on sureties of 100,000 rupees each. Court ordered police to file charges against the students on the 24th. One other student who was injured in a clash continues to receive treatment at the Colombo National Hospital. In the past, with regard to issues surrounding school students, police at times followed a very soft policy. We cannot allow for this trend to grow anymore. If such incidents take place, police will resort to taking legal action against students and all other parties involved.
Still in news here at home, a program titled Trincomalee Consultations commenced today, aimed at creating a forum to discuss issues surrounding the maritime sector around the Bay of Bengal.
Trincomalee Consultations, Regional Cooperation for Economic Prosperity and Maritime Security in the Bay of Bengal, was organized by the Pathfinder Foundation together with Carnegie India under the sponsorship of the Government of Japan. The event saw the participation of a number of technocrats in the sector.
During our discussions today and tomorrow, we will get an opportunity to understand the significance of the Bay of Bengal, as well as the Indian Ocean to the countries in the region. For example, it is reported that in 2013, 95% of India's trade by volume and 75% by value was done by sea. Similarly, 75% of India's oil imports were also by sea. A major part of India's trade with the outside world takes place via Colombo seaport.
Since Bay of Bengal state is a common concern to us, I may first consider why maritime security governance is important to us. It is first because we are in an island, and as we have a fairly large maritime economic zone around us, integrating economic development with security. This zone is prerequisite of development. It may be for fishing, other valuable minerals in the ocean, shipping lanes which serve the whole region. In addition, security actions in the Indian Ocean by several, especially located in Bay of Bengal or distantly, are material for the protection of our sovereignty, for which there are many maritime law enforcement actions.
Sitting here in Sri Lanka, just north of a major crossroads of global maritime trade, we have to agree that these waters remain relevant not just for the countries resident in the region, but others too who may be dependent on these waters for trade and transit. There is little doubt that the primary responsibility for peace, security and prosperity in the region must rest with those who are resident in the region. But this should not also preclude us from working with other like-minded partners.
The Bay of Bengal, like the South China Sea, is located in a strategically important place of the Indo-Pacific, which will become the center for global growth in the 21st century. By regarding these continents and seas as an integrated region, Japan will open up new horizons of Japanese diplomacy. Japan is committed to work together with all the countries concerned to realize the common goal of ensuring open and stable seas and the prosperity and stability of the Indo-Pacific region. There are mounting challenges that face this region, such as terrorism, violent extremism, and threats to maritime security. We must address these imminent challenges together.
Speaking at an event at the BMICH in Colombo yesterday, Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka Ye Liang commented on the controversy surrounding the Hambantota port and the proposed investment zone.
We are not in any position to use Sri Lanka to target any other country. So this is quite clear. Some people have different understanding about the years, the size of the land. The land and the port is Sri Lanka's port, Sri Lanka land, Sri Lanka zone. So this is a big picture. No contract, no agreement between China and Sri Lanka yet. Just one framework agreement on the deal about the port. We have no any intention to intervene the internal differences between politicians or between political groups. I do believe these big projects will be most important for Sri Lanka in the future under the initiative of the secular. So we go ahead or we stop here.
Ambassador Ye Liang made these comments while delivering the 13th annual Sujata Jayawardena Memorial Oration organized by the Alumni Association of the University of Colombo.
Having taken over the onboard security team operations from Avantgarde Maritime Services Limited, the Sri Lanka Navy was able to earn over $20 million for the government of Sri Lanka from its operations over the past 15 months.
At the existing currency exchange rate, the earnings amount to a staggering 3 billion rupees through OBST operations from mid-November 2015. The Sri Lanka Navy says that the earnings had come across from over 8,200 ship movements, predominantly through Galle and Colombo operation centres. The Sri Lanka Navy took over OBST duties following a special directive by President Maithripala Sirisena, and the earnings are directly deposited in the consolidated fund of the government.
AIADMK's E. Palaniswamy, Party Chief V.K. Sasikala's proxy, took oath as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu.
The state governor invited Edapadi Palaniswamy to form the state government earlier today. The decision was reached after both met this morning. The governor requested the chief minister designate to seek the vote confidence of the assembly within 15 days. Amidst high drama yesterday, AIADMK General Secretary V.K. Sasikala Nadarajan left for Bengaluru to surrender after she was convicted in the disproportionate assets case and has made several requests. Her request to be held in the same cell with her relative Ilavarasi was approved and all other requests were turned down.
If you want to keep yourself up to date with regard to any of the stories that we're airing right here on News First and following right here on News First, just log on to www.newsfirst.lk any time of the day and you have the story on board. I am Shamir Rasuldeen.
I'm Sonali Vanikvatige. Good night.